Okay, we come here to the start of the parables, and a specific parable that we're going to focus on here is the parable of the sower. That Jesus tells this story of picture from everyday life that he describes here quickly using a agricultural type of setting. He uses an agricultural story here, if I can write with this here today. We're thinking agricultural here. And so we've got the parable of the sower that we're going to start uh, explaining. And this sower is also, you could also say, is a farmer. And so I really wanted to get into this story because I one love this parable. Absolutely love the truth when we fully explain it. I'm going to have two different parts of this message, so two different videos. But I wanted to get this one out in a video, not only because I love this one, but also because I just wanted to share this one with my dad, who is a farmer, and my brother, and all of our family members that are farmers, and just to share this with you and bring significance and connect Jesus with your farming. And so I hope all of the farmers out there are blessed by this truth. And specifically, this is a larger than ag, larger than farming, sowing type of parable. In the second part, we'll get into the meaning of it, but we're just going to break this first section down here. So, parable of the sower. Sower again is going to be similar to a farmer, somebody that is planting something in a field. Okay, so we're going to start out here explaining this first part. And then Jesus, in the second video, I will explain what Jesus is saying about this parable. So, verse 1, we'll read through this entire thing and then we'll break it down. So, on that day, Jesus went out of the house and was sitting by the sea, and large crowds gathered to him. So he got into a boat and sat down, and the whole crowd was standing on the beach. And he spoke many things to them in parables, saying, Behold, the sower went out to sow. Okay, so those first three verses. So we've got the day that Jesus went out, he left the house and was sitting by the sea. So we wanting to paint this picture in our minds here. Jesus sitting by the sea. Okay. And large crowds gathered to him. So large crowds of people, hundreds, thousands even, potentially, large crowds. So he got into a boat and sat down. He sat down. So this is a posture of a teacher. He's basically sitting in the boat and sitting down so that he can establish himself as a teacher. And everybody would know that he would be going to teach them something. And it's really cool. And one of my favorite books about the parables of Jesus, it is explained that uh, this would have created a kind of echo or amphitheater type of setting with the hills, the rocks, and then the water and Jesus sitting in the boat so that everybody could hear him. But here, so he's sitting in a boat telling the whole crowd who is standing on the beach. So, verse 3, he spoke many things into parables. So again, using that everyday story here, specifically of the sower, the farmer, the picture of agriculture, uh, to explain something here. So he starts to say, Behold, the sower or the farmer went out to sow. So the farmer went out to farm, went out to plant his crops. So we continue on. Verse 4, and as he sowed, some seeds fell beside the road, and the birds came and ate them up. Okay, so that's the first type. So the farmer is planting seeds, seeds are going everywhere, and some seeds fell beside the road. So it's not an ideal situation here, the road, and the birds came and ate the seeds up. Obviously, there's no yield on that, right? So verse 5, and other seeds fell on rocky places where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up. So even though they fell upon the rocky places, they sprang up still because they had no depth of soil. So they're springing up here. And I wanted to show a picture. So we've got the ground here, and we've got the plant coming up, whatever it is. We'll say it's going to turn into an ear of corn eventually. So there's rocky soil, though, the rocky places. And then verse 6, but when the sun had risen, they were scorched, and because they had no root, they withered away. So we've got an interesting situation here. The seed gets to the place on the ground, it starts to grow because it says it sprang up, but because the roots started to go through, there would have been a rocky layer underneath that stops the roots. And then this ends up getting scorched by the sun. It says it, the sun rose and was scorched because there was no root, and then it withered away. So that's not ideal for farming, to have that rock bed of soil underneath that blocks the roots from getting any bigger. It showed promise at first, but underneath there was that hidden hard soil that stopped it. Okay, then we move on. Verse 7, and others fell among the thorns, and the thorns came up and choked them out. So that is a pretty well-known thing among farmers. If you don't spray the weeds or the thorns, if you don't put them in the right place, or if you don't spray, then your plants are gonna get choked out. Okay, so that's got so far. We've got the birds eating the seeds. We've got the sun scorching them because there was too rocky of soil, and then we've got thorns choking them out. And then finally, the last two verses here, and others fell on good soil and were yielding a crop, some 100-fold, some 60, and some 30. So there's that fourth situation. That's what we're looking for when we're farming, right? We want that good soil. Disked up, tilled up, able to give plenty of room for the roots, receive water, and produce a yield and a crop in many different yields, 100-fold, 60, and 30. Then all three of those would be good in that day. And then Jesus says, he who has ears, let him hear. So that is the final statement that he says, because he just speaks the parable first, and so he ends it with kind of trying to grab attention. Got an exclamation point there almost. He who has ears, let him hear. And that is a indication that, hey, if you are following me and wanting to know more about me and who I am as Jesus, the Son of God, pay attention to this parable. Pay attention to my words. And so if you have ears for Jesus, that means you're going to be following him and listening. So pay attention. So I will come back in a second part to dive into the next section because there is a whole nother set of verses where Jesus comes back and explains what exactly this parable is and why he said it, why he chose the seeds and the different situations of plant growth and agriculture and this farmer planting his seeds. Because after this, the disciples are asking, what is this all about? They're saying, we're confused. Why are you telling us this teaching? And so then Jesus comes back and gives an explanation. So that's where we will pick up off in our next video. All right. So I hope this uh, is able to give you some extra connection. You can see Jesus here telling this story of the farmer, the sower, of agriculture type of story. And uh, this wouldn't be something that you'd really draw away from the Bible and God's word, but to me, it's pretty cool because it shows that Jesus was wanting to identify with the farmers. And so, obviously, something that a lot of different people would have been able to understand and identify with. That means if you're a farmer, here you go. This is this awesome story, a truth about Jesus. All right, we'll be back in the next video.